today we talk about a video clip that shows Jung Kook needing medical attention. I also want to get into Jung Kook, who is believed to have been forced to exit a plane and stalkers again. Then we have Jung Kook believed to have been fighting back. So hey Dumplings, is Dave decide hater or not? Make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. Grab your dumpling, taste-filling mug merch, and let's go. Since Jung Kook announced his solo debut, he has been back in the news and people have been heavily talking about him. Haters then of course also come out of the woodworks, and I don't think haters sit around and just wait. I honestly think they don't say anything unless you trigger them. But the only thing is, triggering them is much less effort than one would think. All they have to do is see Jung Kook a lot more on screen and see him being promoted everywhere to then be tired of Jung Kook and then attempt to cancel him. So they pull up random moments to talk about and somehow they go viral. One moment that happened a long time ago was a moment where James Corden was canceled by BTS ARMY. If you don't know what happened, let me recap really quickly. James Corden did a bit where he talked about the UN and was expecting some pretty unusual visitors, and that 15-year-olds everywhere were wishing that they were a part of that staff at the UN. Now, James got into a lot of backlash for this, which to this day I still don't understand. James was saying 15-year-olds everywhere wished that they could be the staff. I'm pretty sure this is an accurate statement. I'm pretty sure 15-year-olds were wishing. That's not saying that BTS doesn't have older fans, because that's statistically not true. But BTS does indeed have 15-year-old fans, and those fans are usually the ones that are the loudest. So he was literally saying a true statement there. And then I read a bunch of people in their 20s and 30s get upset and jump on the James Corden hate train for this. I just want to say shame on you. Shame on you for jumping on a hate train while being an adult who is supposed to have comprehension skills. When a kid gets upset at something, it's whatever. We pay no mind, whatever, it's a child or teenager. But as a full-fledged adult with a paying job, it's scary to think someone who does not process information and words properly is contributing to society, and some of them are doing very important jobs like nursing and law. Tell me that's not terrifying, that these people don't know how to listen. Also, the bit where James said the UN received some unusual guests is also just blatantly true. UN usually does not receive pop stars, let alone K-pop stars. So I don't know where that became an insult either. But anywho, BTS was invited back on James' show, and basically James addressed the situation and apologized. The bit here that was resurfacing again recently was when James apologized. Apparently Jung Kook and other BTS members were sitting there and giggling, and that Jung Kook and the other members were fighting back with James by laughing, thinking it was funny that James was getting threats. The tweet and comment is very much taken completely out of context. This is literally not what happened. James was literally sitting there and acknowledged what he did publicly, so armies know that he acknowledged it, and then James was freaking out and crying on the couch with his head down. If BTS members literally did not laugh, this would be so awkward to watch. They're laughing because they're trying to make light of the situation that would otherwise be quite dark. And also, shame on the person who wrote this tweet by literally trying to take something out of context. Of course, more footage and clips of Jung Kook has come to surface, and we started to also get videos and footage that show how hard Jung Kook works. The boys do tend to overwork themselves. Of course, I can't speak for BTS or Jung Kook specifically because they're trained by some of the best teachers, but even some of the best athletes will faint and pass out due to not breathing properly or whatever. So it definitely does happen. Your body can also overheat, and the difference between performing every night, if you're someone who is a musical theater person versus a pop star, is that a pop star has to travel and do all this extra stuff. They're not just singers, because a singer is allowed to eat and keep their strength up, whereas pop stars also have to look a certain way. And when you're a literal stick and you have to do a 2-hour full-on dance routine every night, you're bound to get hurt. This was footage that was recorded by either a reporter or BTS camera team that showcased Jung Kook passing out, and then the team put an ice pack on his forehead. This brought up the conversation that was sparked by BTS's autobiography, where the boys were mistreated by the industry and had to work extra hard since they were in a small label. This was definitely very likely and possible, right? The boys had even talked about being mistreated by the industry, and then we see this video or these moments. However, coming from a small label, the amount of work you do is because You want to prove yourself. It has nothing to do with needing the company's approval. The members themselves wanted to be successful, so they knew that they had to work harder than any other group out there. The boys likely did pass out a lot or needed a lot of medical attention, but this is the price you pay for now being a multi-millionaire who never has to work again. If you want a normal career where you clock in at 9 a.m. and then leave at 5 p.m. and never have to work past your limit, then there's plenty of jobs to do that. And then there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're looking to be extraordinary, then you need to not be doing what everyone else is doing. So I am not surprised, because this actually makes sense. Someone works hard and then they get success. We should be happy and inspired to see this happen. And of course, we can worry, but we shouldn't be angry at the company for saying they're mistreating the boys, because the boys can stop. Legally, you cannot work someone past their breaking point. So if the boys are so bent on we're being overworked, then sue. The law supersedes any contract. So if the court finds out that the company violated labor laws, then BTS could have left early, but they didn't want to do that because working hard and being a group under Big Hit was more important. And before we get into they couldn't afford lawyers then, many lawyers would do cases for free unless they win. And if they win the case, they'll ask for money. But I'm very excited to see Jungkook do more stuff and start his solo endeavors. Jungkook was believed to be coming to Good Morning America for their concert series. Jungkook will be performing his song 7 for the first time live, and you can go on Good Morning America's website to get free tickets to see any artist they have on their concert series. However, the concert for Jungkook is sold out. Obviously, we'd expect nothing less. We even have armies camping outside already, and the song is not set to release until a few more days. And the performance won't even happen until then either. Obviously, Jungkook at this moment would still be in Korea, and he hasn't left to come to the US yet. However, this raised a big question about the last time he was in the US or in LA. Jungkook flew from Korea to LA, and his trip in Korea was heavily documented. There were many fans and reporters. People then snapped pictures of Jungkook in LA and then noticed that Jungkook never made a public appearance but went through the back exit. The only time BTS members go through the back exit is because the crowds seem a bit crazy or there was some sort of safety issue, whether that was with the members itself or with the crowd. So if everyone was rowdy, if a member were to come out, this would potentially cause danger to the crowd there. A photo was then taken of Jungkook behind some glass walking off, and some people were saying that this was a Sasaeng or stalker who followed Jungkook, or that Jungkook needed to leave the plane over an emergency stalker moment, which is why he didn't make a public appearance in LA. That makes no sense. Jungkook already made a public appearance in Korea, so he got the press and the publicity that he was looking for. He really didn't need a second round of that, but also the people who spotted him in LA were probably just reporters that thought that Jungkook was going to make an appearance there. Like anything in entertainment, if there's no money and contract involved, there's no obligation for anyone to do anything. So Jungkook didn't have to make an appearance, but that doesn't mean that's a stalker. It's just a reporter who didn't have everything go his or her way. While there are stalkers and Sasaeng fans that are a bit aggressive and sometimes do track flights, it doesn't happen as often as you would think. At this point, a lot of the K-pop idols and labels have to deal with the airline. So in situations where they would book a flight, it would make sense that the airline is very much aware of who is in first class and prevent others from booking. Jungkook and BTS members also don't travel alone, so when they travel, it's very likely that they would book out the remaining first and business class seats, so no strangers, only crew would be seated there. And I'm not saying a stalker or whatever doesn't ever get through the cracks, because it does happen. It's just a lot more rare. I would also like to say any video or footage of BTS and Jungkook at the airport is rarely ever considered stalker footage. Stalker footage is when the members are at their apartment being recorded naked, which, as you can see, has never happened, because a lot of the footage we see online are often staged. This is just how PR works. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out my Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thanks for this lovely comment right here. Love you, bye.